Pyramid, The Pyramid, is a film that is a prime example of concept is far grander than the actual initiation. The Pyramid is a pseudo found footage film. There is mostly found footage in regards to the whole, how everything's shot. You're usually seeing the scene through one of the cameras that one of the characters is holding, but sometimes in a fair few shots, you'll see characters, the remaining characters in a room from an angle to which there is no camera to have made that shot in universe. So it's a pseudo found footage, but also not found footage at the same time. It's in the between, whatever. There's background music, there's CGI near the end that I'm not a big fan of. But I am a very big fan of what they try to do in regards to story and concept. Set in 2013 during the Egyptian riots, which actually did happen, there's a whole political thing going on in 2013, in the region, a team of archaeologists studying a recently discovered submerged pyramid out in the sands, in the vicinity of Cairo, but a fair bit away. The pyramid was completely submerged below ground, and then they started to dig through the sand, so they were unearthing the pyramid. It was roughly the size of Giza, perhaps, but it was all submerged rather than above ground. So they theorized that this pyramid is thousands and thousands of years old, thousands of years older than the pyramids of Giza theorized, they say. And they started to talk about, a couple of the archaeologists started to talk about the Egyptian gods, and how there's one popular theory saying that they came from the sky, Osiris came from the sky, the other gods came from the sky, and that they could be aliens and all that stuff that came from the sky and taught the primitives in the cradle of civilization how things were going on with the whole technology and crap. And that is a popular theory amongst many people who try to justify how all of the mythologies of the worlds and the old ancient monotheistic religions of the region came to be, because the cradle of civilization is in this region. Egypt has history dating back 7,000 years. I am not a historian by any means. I just know that we have written history, not really written as in, paper written, but written as in stone and all that stuff, and tombs and all that stuff, dating back 5,000 years. We can see dating back to 5,000 BC, 7,000 years, dating back that far in regards to activity in the region, right? So we know that at least 7,000 years have happened here in comparison to all the other regions. You know how China and the warring states, that is, in the 300 BC era, that's a long ways back. And then we have some BC era stuff going on in Middle America. There's a lot of stuff happening. But what's the oldest? Where did it originate? Where did it come from? Where did everything come from? Where did all the mythologies of the world come from? Is it all people trying to make sense of things? And that's an example of what they were trying to do here. People trying to make sense of things and creating a fantastical little story about it using the Egyptian mythology as the backdrop this time. And I liked it. I liked the idea. I liked the idea of where they tried to take this. I didn't actually like the film itself and most of the characters in the film. I didn't care for that. I would put this roughly on the same level as I would put, say, Chernobyl Diaries. I'd say it probably is about on the exact same level as Chernobyl Diaries. It's set on a backdrop that I'm very interested in. It's set in a location I am very interested in, covering stuff that I am very interested in, but the film itself I am not as interested in. Does that make sense? That's what the pyramid is. It revolves around a group of archaeologists investigating a pyramid before they're forced out by the Egyptian army due to the whole riots intensifying and their safety being not secured. They're being escorted to the airport to be evacuated out of Egypt before shit hits the fan. But the archaeologists are stubborn. There's a father and daughter team, and their two camera people, and then the daughter's boyfriend, who is also a techno guy, probably working for NASA or something. He's got a Land Rover or something on loan from NASA that's like $3 million, and they use that rover to investigate the pyramid first, in case there's any toxins and stuff from like thousands of years ago that we don't have access for or whatever. So they're trying to be careful here, obviously. This is how you would be careful, right? And I like that. I like a lot of the choices that they made in the first part of the film in regards to taking care and being careful with things like that. Because you never know what you can find out there. You never know what you're going to be breathing in, right? So you gotta keep an eye out on that. So they take the rover down there, and then something destroys the rover, and all the footage goes away. So they decide they have to go down there. They think the rover just malfunctioned or something, so they gotta go retrieve it, though, because it's on loan from NASA. They have to return it. So the cast sneaks by the Egyptian soldiers into the pyramid to recover the rover. They find it, it's been destroyed, and then they get lost. I don't know how you would get lost in a pyramid like this. I'm just using logic here, but one of the characters mentioned that the last person who probably entered this pyramid entered it thousands of years ago. So my theory there being, if you get lost, perhaps look at the ground at your intersection. I imagine the one that's got footprints on the ground in the sand, because there's a bunch of sand on the floor, right? I imagine that the pathway that has footprints going towards your position is the one that you came from. So I'd imagine if you took that path, you'd probably find your way back out of the pyramid. But of course, movie's got a movie. It's got to find out a reason to keep going. So they ignore a bunch of logic just to extend the runtime. Because if they don't extend the runtime making dumb choices, the film could have been over with in about 20 minutes. And I like the set pieces, the designs, and all the stages, and the tomb looks real tomb-y. I don't like some of the traps, though, because depending upon how far back you go, I don't think they had chains in 5000 BC, you know? I don't think they made chain link devices to have moving doors and pulley systems and things of that nature. I don't think they were that advanced 7,000 years ago, but that's just me. But then again, I'm just assuming that the pyramid is 7,000 years old. It probably is more around the lines of about, say, 4,000 years old. Maybe even 3,000 years old. You don't know. We don't know. They never answer that question, but I'm assuming that it's one of the oldest pyramids. Just going on the story that they're trying to tell. They're talking about Osiris, the father of the gods. The Osiris in Egyptian mythology, at least from what they're trying to claim in this film, they're probably getting a lot of events wrong, and they have gotten a lot of things wrong. If anybody who's into Egyptian history, mythology, and all that stuff, they probably could answer that question far better than me. But from what I am aware, from what the film tried to make you aware of, is that they claim that Osiris is basically the Egyptian pantheon's version of Zeus. He's the first one. He's the big daddy. He's the father of Anubis and all the other lesser peoples of the world. So they claim that that Osiris was also the first pharaoh. They claim that that's what the characters in this claim. At any rate, I don't know if that's actually factually, well, not really factually, but like historically backed up, but claims of that nature, hieroglyphics on the walls and all that stuff. But whatever. A lot of the hieroglyphics and the storytelling on the walls and all that stuff, I loved that. I loved the lore building on all of the walls and the set pieces and all that stuff. Stories like this really, really, really get me fascinated. The historical fiction, Indiana Jones, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, the Clive Cussler Dirk Pitt stuff. I love that stuff. I love it. I can't get enough of those types of historical fiction where they get to go after a fanciful artifact or go into an ancient ruin and they discover a lot of stuff and you learn about all sorts of ancient lore and history and they try to bend the truth a little bit and make it fantastical and supernatural and maybe some of the gods were actually real. And in this they tried to combine aliens with their Egyptian gods. At least that's what I gathered. Because eventually, near the end of the film, you will find Anubis, who they claim is Anubis. It's very, very noticeably bad CGI. The CGI is very, very noticeable. Oh my gosh! But that creature that they claim is Anubis, they say that he was the son of Osiris, and that he tried to follow Osiris into resurrection, but Anubis had a dark heart, so he just kept sacrificing thousands and thousands of people. And so the Egyptians eventually just trapped Anubis in this pyramid. They sunk it below the ground. They just trapped him down here to rot forever. And then Anubis just found a way to get out. At the end, he just finds a way to get out. There's also a side story involving the toxic stuff in the pyramid that seems to be like a sort of plague. That all the characters that are breathing it in, they're starting to get rashes on their skin, things on their eyes are turning red. I have no idea what that's about. They explain it's probably fungal stuff at the start of the film. They explain that it's probably something like that, but don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that. I don't know for exacts. But what I could tell you here is that the concept is worth the price of admission here, more than the film itself. You're probably going to get annoyed by the decisions that many of the characters make in this film. You're probably going to get annoyed by the found footage if you hate found footage. But if you're interested, at least remotely, in historical fiction and all this fantastical elements, even if they're taking very, very powerful liberties with the mythologies and trying to make a fantastical story out of it, if you could put that aside, if you're interested in historical fiction in any means or capacity, I would recommend taking a look at this, at least just taking a look. You don't have to enjoy it, you don't have to love it, but take a look. I took a look and I found myself very fascinated by the pyramid itself. The pyramid is good. The stage is good. The setting is good. All of the hieroglyphics on the walls and all the artwork and all that stuff that they recreated, that's good. It's all very, very good. The CGI is terrible. A lot of the characters' actions and line deliveries and dialogue is terrible. But the history delivering is good. All of that is good. It's got ups and downs. It's worth watching for the ups more than it is not worth watching for the downs, if that makes sense. Be imaginative, everybody.